order. The Historic Commission. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if I could have a to approval of the minutes.
I'll make the motion. Oh,
No, you can't.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's adopted. Everything is all set in this meeting, and we'll start off. Cam, you're first up.
First up, Colleen Cam Bunting. I'm here because I need to do part of a roof at the office at 24 Broad Street. And you should have in your package, it's the light, the same color that's there. It's the same thing, only I've learned over the years it's better to put in architectural shingles than it is the flat ones. So these will definitely be architectural shingles.
So what's on there now is a 3-tab and changing it to the architectural.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions?
No, I think it's fine.
That looks fine to me. I make a motion that we approve case number 7-5-23-14 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
Second that motion.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'm off to the shorebirds.
Hopefully they'll
Of
win.
course.
There's a little league game going on too. The 9-10-year-olds are playing at 6
You'll see the
o'clock.
first
How do you
pitch.
find out that stuff?
Friends of Berlin Little League.
Friends of Berlin Little League, okay.
You'll see the first pitch.
Oh, yeah. And the
All right.
rain will come. Thank you all.
See you. See you again. Bye.
All right, next up, 24 North Main Street, Calhoun County Bank. Gentlemen, I'd like to step forward and we know who you are for the record. Please state your names and then tell us kind of what you want to do.
Will do, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Ray Thompson with Taylor Bank. This is my colleague, Ray Robinson. We come before you today to discuss and seek your approval of the installation of a through-wall ATM at our location at 24 North Main Street here in Berlin. That's the bank's headquarters. We presently have an ATM at that location. I'm sure you know where it is. It's in the vestibule near my office. That ATM has recent useful life, and we now find ourselves having to replace that. And given the size of the unit and having it more accessible and more safely installed, we feel it's time to put it through the wall because that vestibule is no longer serving its purpose. Having that ATM on that wall on the exterior of the building, what we call the old Burbage and Powell building next to my office, it's going to be more visible. Oftentimes, merchants in town send their patrons down to our bank to use the ATM and they can't find it, so it's going to be far more easy to find if we install it through the wall there on Main Street. Plus, I'll reiterate the fact that we feel it's a much safer installation simply because it's more publicly visible to law enforcement as well as others traversing up and down Main Street. So I'll defer to Ray if you have any technical questions about the installation, but we have provided to you plans, and of course you have photographs, renderings of what it will look like once it's installed.
May I ask?
Go ahead, Mary, you have some questions?
Did you ever consider Broad Street?
We have the ability to install an ATM on Broad Street, but the Main Street is the preferred location because of traffic counts.
The visual. I guess my first thought of that is, I think, well, your bank is such an iconic building. I know that is the sidebar there, but to me, when I first looked at it, right, at this both, I just thought it looked so contemporary for such an iconic building. It just, in my visual point, it's, I mean, it's an ATM is an ATM is an ATM. I mean, I understand that, and it's part of the banking business, part of customers and part of the merchants being able to send people over there. Did you have any other presentations or drawing about how that could be put in that wall? I hate to see the windows go, I'll be really honest. I really think it's such an attractive building, everything, like I say, from the garden all the way around. but it just distracts me right now. That's just my first thought. I'll let someone else speak. Carol or someone here.
First of all, I'd like to say that I value my relationship with Taylor Bank.
I think we all do.
I actually, when I go in there, every time I go in, I think to myself, this is the way a bank should look. It feels good, it's beautiful. And as a customer of the bank, I love that vestibule. On a cold, windy, wet day, I duck in there, I put my purse on the ledge of so I have a place to sit down my purse. I feel safe because I'm in there. And I think it's one of the main parts of Berlin, and it's part of the charm. I don't want to see it go away, that vestibule. I know that the town needs to still maintain its, modern amenities, but that is one of the most charming little ATMs there ever was.
Thank you for saying
And that's
that.
how I feel.
Regrettably, the size of the machine would not, the machine that we have to replace it with won't fit in that vestibule, which is what's forced us to have to reorient it and push it through the wall. And to your point, Mary, I believe we're only removing 2 windows in total.
Basically, we're removing it, but we're going to be cutting back as subtly as possible. So it'd be light materials, just what we already have in the
Quick question, did you ever consider putting it adjacent on the 2 windows that are looking uptown towards your rival, used to be the rival bank, the other bank rather than or is it really more all about visibility and right here, this is where it needs to be?
So the best way I can explain it to you is because this space is already designated as an ATM vestibule, placing it anywhere else in the building then becomes hugely disruptive to the historic value of the building, because then we're talking about some pretty invasive interior renovations. So if you're referencing the window that's on the angle or those bay windows.
What does that back up to, the desk, or they do?
No, ma'am. So if you're looking at the 2 windows just to the right of the 2, that is actually a lobby seating area for the loan administrative offices. So
Okay.
it would be quite, how can I say this?
Okay, it won't work.
Yeah, it's not going to work. It would really require a lot of interior renovation that would then really harm what the office looks like inside. So.
Did they even consider putting a window over it, like a transom window kind of thing, mimicking? I mean, I'm looking to the left, what's there today. And it just, as I look at it with the historic perception, it really, I think there's got to be another creative way of doing this and not making it look as harsh. I don't know what the
I
correct
think
term is.
those 2 windows kind of carry the line of the windows right around. When you stand back, I stood across the street and I looked at it. And it just, those 2 windows like carry the kind of line right across,
Very
visually.
attractive.
And there's transoms above already, is there not?
There's transom windows above the
Yeah.
2 that are there, that is correct. But
Right.
you're looking at 2 double hung windows that allow you to see into the ATM vestibule right now. And those would be the only 2 that would be in route. So the transom above would still stay there.
And your door is iconic. I mean, it is an old door to an old bank or wherever the door came from. It isn't your classic plastic Home Depot kind of door everybody pops in today, or even a metal bank vault door, which the world's coming to. But, I just would love to think that somebody could creatively come up with a more visual, attractive presentation that was more in keeping with the historic feeling of our town. It's just almost like my eye stops. It's just, I always say, when design is good, your eye travels and go, that's great, or isn't that when your eye goes, oh, new door, oh, different window. When it starts chopping around, to me, it loses that fluid and the
And that's what I mean
aesthetics.
by
I
those
don't
2
know, I'm not-
windows.
okay.
That's kind of essentially what I'm saying too. The 2 windows make it.
Flow, there's a flow there. I don't know. Were there more ideas, or did they give you any other one?
This was our main choice. We, like I said, we tried to look at it to the right, but again, like Ray stated,
Yeah.
we had
It's
more
just
invasive.
invading
This
the-
behind here is already, has a small vestibule, as you may know, so what we would have to do is just extend it back for servicing of this machine. That's the issue with these machines. These machines will have deposit capability for our Taylor Bank customers, so there's an issue with the servicing of that. So that's why we would, no, the entrance will not change, that door will still remain there. So we're just be adding a wall to enclose the back of this machine. So basically, right now, it enclosed, we're just gonna be extending that backwards.
Could it have another window to the left, like a locker window coming up, or something that, not make that just big reddish orange wall with the logo there? I'm speaking purely aesthetically for the period of this building and this addition, and it's just, I'm looking for some other options maybe.
So regrettably, what you don't see is the size of the machine that's behind the part of the machine you see, which is, it's a pretty sizable unit.
The
And
backside.
Yeah, the backside of it, yes
Okay.
ma'am.
So that's a huge part of
Yeah,
where it's placed.
So if you're familiar with the size of the ATM vestibule now, I can say with high confidence that if that machine was installed in that space right now, it would take up almost the entire space. That's how big the machine
Okay,
is.
like a washing machine or something?
Yeah, it's pretty big, so that's why we've had to reorient it to face east. And I apologize that Bank machinery isn't prettier. So,
I know.
No,
A lot of
that's-
people apologize to us when we
Yeah.
question
I
aesthetics.
would argue that in some cases, some of the machinery used could be more aesthetically pleasing, but
Yeah.
regrettably, that's just
But
the nature of the business
yeah.
we're in, so.
What's that to the left of the door, Ray? Is that another
Little
window?
silver,
That's
Yeah.
for our smoke, for you.
Yeah, That's for people to put their cigarette butts in, yeah. when-
Yeah, is that your office?
That's my office right there. Yeah.
I've got a picture in, along the seaside from, I don't know what year, that kind of shows the bank with the buildings that were
Burbage
open,
Powell.
Burbage and Powell.
And with the opening, and this is pretty much still showing the same type of entranceway.
I think probably they were built at the same time after whatever fire, I have it at home, but I don't know.
And Laura, if I may address a point you made, we all love that little vestibule. It's a nice little windbreak when we walk in from the building, but I can also tell you that as nice as that's to have in the winter, we have from time to time come to work in the morning and found folks sleeping in that vestibule. And they have also from time to time used it as a restroom, and I'll spare you those details. So that
just so they don't use the front door as a restroom now, moving things along.
Yeah, so this will help us with that. It's not been a big issue, but from time to time, we've had to call the police to help us get people out of the vestibule.
Did you think at all about the entrance, like if you go into the drive-through or anything there?
I thought of that too.
So that would require a through-wall installation on a brick wall, and that would be giantly problematic. So I'm not going to say it's not doable, but twice, probably 3 times the expense. And like I said, there's also, if I may, people are familiar with the ATM being in this location. So it's just going to make it a lot easier for business continuity and for our customers to know that the ATM is generally in the same place. It's just we're going to reorient it through the east wall.
Carol, do you have any?
Well, I understand, what they need to do. I'm all right with it. I understand about the windows, but I don't know what else they could do.
Do to make that
Yeah.
appearance any difference in the
I
spot
mean,
that we put it?
There is no other design, I guess is what I'm saying. What you've come up with is what is going to make it work because of the size of the machine, is that,
Can't they keep it the same?
Sorry?
Why can't they keep it the
The
same?
technology of the machines that we are required to install today, those little freestanding ATMs that you see there and that we see oftentimes in public places like bars and restaurants, the technology we are required to now have in our machines those are no longer feasible, those freestanding units.
I have another question, that just came to mind, looking at the Taylor Bank logo and over that. The original Taylor Bank that I remember for years, over the front door, the sign, was it black with gold letters around it or something, or am I mistaken?
No, it was like a burgundy or maroon sign that had gold leaf around the edges. yes, sir.
Okay. Would you consider even, since you have your Taylor Bank logo on the machine, would you consider giving a little more character or something to the lettering where you've got the Taylor Bank logo, then you've got it down on the machine, actually?
We might be able to make that all
That might
gold.
make it visually, and you could say a circus sense or the serving Berlin, something that could be, and the gold outline, doing something with, give it some character, some period look to it.
So we could actually take this logo and make the whole logo almost like a gold or brass with our bank name and the.
Well, let me ask you this, since you have the logo on the sign and everywhere else, and you have it on the ATM machine, could you take it off that red brick wall and just have the classic Taylor Bank look of what the bank was when it opened in 1890? What year was it?
1890.
1890, whatever that, I mean, I think it would give a little more, this is Berlin, this is a historic town, this is why people come. So if we could take this, the blue sailboat, which I will tell you, I did think it looked like the Bank of Ocean City when I first saw it. I thought the colors in the sailboat, but I understand the dynamics, and I have done advertising, so I mean, I've studied it, so I know, but I just think it might look even more attractive. I'd love to see an artist rendering of just what that might look like.
So my recommendation would be, based on what you're asking, would be to take this logo. I would like to keep the same, that is our logo now, that's
Yeah,
not
and
going
it's
to
on the
change.
machine.
But what I would recommend is, as a workaround, would be to have the logo be entirely like in a gold or a brass. We could do that.
I'd love to see the year the bank opened there. I'd love to see that feeling that something of history was on that entrance into the bank, the people that don't come into the main entrance. I mean, when you drive by and I...
There's a sign right to the left of that. If you
Yeah.
notice, it's mounted on the wall next in front of my office that has that
Okay.
history you're looking for.
Okay, so over here, you're saying there's a Taylor Bank
There's already a
property?
sign there, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I didn't pick up on that. I was just trying to think of something with that orange brick with the turquoise blue and with that, if there's any other way that would give it a little bit more of...
Yeah, the old
Rounding
sign that Calvin B. Taylor had on the original bank is actually installed on the walls just to the left of that door when you walk in.
And it's gold, it's got gold lettering.
Yeah.
So that's why I was recommending as a workaround that we could have this signage be, instead of it
Something that
be,
gave it a little
give it
more
a little bit,
age
yeah.
appropriateness, I'm going to say, for the
Yeah.
bank. It's something to be proud of, and the year it opened, and it's got such a wonderful reputation in the country. I know that from people who follow banks, and I know you have a really good,
I understand about Liz and this.
but I'd love to see some historic reference there at some point, instead of just that modern.
And I'll say it again, there's already a historic sign on the left of the door, which is very
Well, we
visible.
can only do so many sailboats too, and it's on the machine.
I
You
thought
know,
about
I don't
putting,
like the Ocean City feeling.
just a transom window up there, you know, just. a
Yeah,
window
that,
above
if
it.
that would work.
Laura,
Breaking up that red.
So the problem you're going to have there is then you're going to be able to see through the window and you're going to see some pretty unsavory machinery sitting behind it.
No, if there's a transit.
So he's talking about
Okay.
if this was a window that there, you can see all.
Yeah, you could even put the Taylor logo on the window.
But he's saying with the window.
Once you put a window above that machine, then you're going to see a pretty unsightly machine sitting behind it. It won't even look
It's
as
that
nice
tall.
as, it won't even look as nice as the machine you see now when you look through the window. So it'll look like a big gray box.
It's that tall.
It's that tall, that's correct.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Well, I guess that's all I have to say. I would just like to see more of a reference to the period of the bank, and there's so much to be proud of that. And I know it's 2023, and I know a lot of younger people don't care. That's all right too, but I care about the bank and the beauty of it and all of those things. I'd love to have something sort of grounding it. That's just, I'm done with my comments. I think everyone knows I've expressed myself. So.
Edward, are you here to speak on any of this?
No, I have a general comment when this is done.
Very well. Personally, I don't dislike it. I can see that if we step up, maybe making that Taylor Bank look gold with the older look to it, I think may dress this down a little bit. I understand about the ATMs, how big they are, and you're stuck with that thing now. I mean, you gotta do it, you gotta go somewhere.
I think Broad Street's a better choice.
Traffic counts won't work for us. It's going to be harder for our customers to find it as well.
Well, we got people on the corners, we got signs, ATM on Broad Street directly behind you.
Plus, it would have to be installed, in that vestibule, which is, the machine, it's too big, it wouldn't work in that back vestibule.
How about knocking out one of the windows where the girls have their desk back there? I'm curious, may I ask who was the graphic, that did the graphic for you all?
It's Diebold, the maker of this machine, did this. one.
Oh, they came
Yeah.
up with it,
Yeah.
okay. Out of, I'm just curious, where are they? New York, Chicago?
No, they're in
What
Ohio.
would that background
Okay,
material be, is that wood?
Yes, that would be the same material that's at the bottom there. It would be like a Douglas fir plywood.
Okay.
Would be using the same material we have there.
See, when I look at the left side, look at that door, I mean, that raised panel goes up on that left side, and that's what, it doesn't necessarily disrupt my eyesight too bad because of the left side being up as high too, not quite as high. Well, I mean, we have some suggestions, we've had anything, but does anybody want to make a motion? Does anyone, where do you guys want to?
So tell me again, did you have an architect do this, or did you say the ATM company came up with the plan?
The rendering is our ATM installer, our company that makes the ATM come up with that for us. We have Gillis Gulkerson who will be doing the work inside.
Okay, but you didn't have,
Yeah, this didn't require the work of an architect. It was, as you know, Jeff Shulkoff is the architect of actually all of the work that's been done to the main office. This is, the interior spaces as well as the exterior elevations, but this wasn't something that we needed to engage him for. It's really just taking the machine that's freestanding in the ATM lobby now. It's no longer, it's an obsolete machine actually. We're past due having to replace it by regulation. And we're going to reorient it to the east and put it through the wall, which is a very common application for ATMs. Actually, vestibule ATMs, for a lot of reasons, are not the safest ATMs anymore. So.
All right. Any more questions? Is there any more questions?
No,
comments?
it's basically, I understand, sort of business and commercial, and yet we sit here as a historic body trying to keep Berlin and this is just one more that, to me, I won't go into all this now, but some other things, I was coming down the street because I spent a lot of time driving back both ways and observing all the other kiosk stands out there, and we've got a new influx of trash cans. But I mean, I know all these things are important. I'm not saying, but I often think that sometimes when people get together and put their thoughts together, you can come up with a, something a little more pure. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I've said all I can say.
There's so much
understand. I'm
stuff
not
on the happy about it. sidewalks now, you can't even
No.
really get down, there's
No.
way too much stuff.
Well,
Commerce.
someone like to entertain a motion? How would you guys, any more comments or anything?
I'm torn on it because I really don't like it where it's going. I just don't like it on the front of the building like that.
There's nothing aesthetically attractive about it. And yes, it's a commerce and there's a need there and we don't want them outside. I mean, I read people get held up at ATM machines all the time or follow you home when you go to the ATM machine. I realize that's part of our world today. And it's commerce and perhaps it's with the light at night, it's, safer than being out. But I'm saying aesthetically and sitting here, I can't feel like I represent the mayor and the council and the town supposed to be on historic district and pulling on my background and with art and history and the town and living here the many years as I have and my love and appreciation of antiquity. And I'd like to see it recognized. I still would love to see something new out there and some sort of lettering saying opened or however the words would be that we've been here since 18 or whatever the date there. I think that would give it something of more of historic significance than just another building of commerce,
I don't know what other signage that I could install on the front of the building.
I would
but-
love to see if you could, just Ray, come up with something, show me something that whomever does your graphics, somewhere, a couple people here that will come up with.
Mary, I've already suggested that we replace the lettering above the ATM with a gold or a brass.
Well, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, so.
I'd love
I mean,
to
that
see
would-
it
that
rather
would-
than suggestion. I'd like to visually see what it looks, it may look more unattractive than this. I mean, that's why I sit here, Ray. I'm not sitting here trying to be difficult. I'm here because we're supposed to upstand the historic pride of this town and the things that, all the little things are like little cherry pick and take things out. So, but no, I'm just saying, I would like to see the sign that you suggest, or have it drawn up that I can just give it to Dave or have it emailed. I'll come in and look at it, we can all look at it, and unless I'm the only person who feels that way, that there's any significance to have the date the bank opened or have a more traditional sign rather than the one that's there right now.
Well, just to be clear, what I'm recommending is that we replace our logo, which appears in blue, and then our icon to the left. I'm proposing that we would change all of that to like a gold or a brass lettering.
It would be identical, but it would not be blues, it would be in gold.
It would be all in gold or brass. It would
Do
be
you
more.
have any thought, or do you think it's just too way out there to say the year the bank opened?
There's a sign just to the left of it that already
There is a
says that,
sign to the
yes.
All right,
And it's a
okay, I'm
big
just
sign.
trying to find something that could give some character to it, because that's what's lacking right now.
Actually, that sign gets more people stop and look at the sign I'm referencing that you would know, because I hear them when they stop and look at it, because the sign's attached to the wall that's
Yes,
outside my
okay.
office.
I will have to go by it.
The sign is like an original, beautiful old sign that's
Oh.
very historic.
It
Okay,
was the sign that appeared on the original bank building that's still there.
okay, well, I'm glad to hear that one.
Okay, so here's where we stand. So if a commissioner makes a motion, and we vote, they will vote. I don't vote as the chairman unless it's a deciding vote. If it's 2-on-2, then I'm the deciding vote. If the commissioners, if a commissioner makes a motion, and there's a second and a call for all in favor, and there's 2 for aye, 2 against, then I will vote. If there's 3 against, 1 for, and it's turned down, that stops you for a year before you can come back. So to prevent that, we haven't done that since I've been on this commission. So with something like that, we would table it to where you can come back at any time. And or we have done emails to show where Mary's requesting maybe to look at a different sign to see that in brass, put that in brass or gold, email it back to us, we look at it, and then approve from there as far as an email. And it could be approved again in a week, 2 days, you can go back and somebody can change that color to that, and you email it to us, and we'll all look at it, and that may be the big change that would make it. Or we can go ahead and entertain a motion, see if there are 3 commissioners that are for it, and then go that way. So that's the options that we have. Of course, I don't want to see you wait another year to come back, by no means at all.
Yeah, and if I may address that, we're actually, we're under regulatory pressure to change the machine out, because as I mentioned, the one that we have is obsolete, and the technology that is required for these machines, we've been in a queue with Diebold to get this work done. We're finally getting around to getting it done, so a year's not going to work for us.
Right, and that's what we understand. We're very easily, we can work very easily through.
This is one of the most historic buildings in the town, and this is a big change. I mean, the Atlantic Hotel, he was one of the founders, of the town, and I just think it's more than we can, that, to me, just, it's a significant change to the historic look of the building. It's a hard decision to
Just a
say something like that.
visual world, or visual, and as I said, why we sit here isn't just to be difficult or try to
That's
get
a
together,
hard
come up with the
decision.
best idea. And I think that, I certainly would like to see that done, to give that. I just think right now it's way too contemporary looking for Main Street Berlin with the signage, and signage is huge for that.
I don't know if they could just make that look like it fits in the building more. I mean, I don't know, some sort of work around the machine
And
or
is there-
something.
there's no other place that it could go?
Not at
This is
present,
the
not-
only option.
Not given the size of the machine that we have to install, that's correct.
That's what makes it hard.
It's a big bank, it's a big building, I got
Yes.
And
it.
they are big.
It's
I mean,
perfect
I'm sure you guys have all been
perfect
to-
case of running into 21st century technology when we have, 18th and 19th century architecture. We're running into it with some of the brick walkways around town that have been replaced over time. It's just a difficult thing for them, but it's a difficult thing for you all, so.
It's a difficult decision because it's such a charming spot. I'll just be sad to see that ATM then, at all. But I'll go with, whatever you want.
Any more questions or
No,
anything?
Thank you for listening.
Yep, I mean, as commissioners now, we need to make a decision on what you guys would like to do here. Do you want him to send us tonight, tomorrow?
I have to see a picture of it,
Of that being in brass
yes.
or gold?
And it sounds like it would be good, but we've had too many people sit here and tell us something, and you can't, it's not at all when it's executed, because we didn't get the hard copy and look at exactly what they were visualizing, and we didn't see that. So I would,
Ray, can they just add architectural detail or something?
So it would probably be pretty easy for Diebold to provide us with a rendering, as you see here on the screen, where the lettering and the logo would be all in gold or brass. We can give you 2 renderings
I
of
mean,
that.
it's more than just that.
Could they make the perimeter of the machine,
No.
in that brass or gold?
No.
Could you frame it in some type of trim that matches what's on the front of the building?
No.
You can't, there's no room to picture frame it on the outside?
We could put some, we might be able to put some framing around the silver surround that you see, but that's part of the machine,
Yeah,
so.
I don't think that would look,
It's,
I don't think putting molding on the outside of that silver on the machine, I
you
don't.
know,
I don't mean around there, I just meant around the roof line, or the ceiling. of
Well, he's
it.
gonna change the color of that blue. It doesn't have to be blue. He said he could change that color.
we don't have a representative from Diebold with us today, but I can tell you that they're the single largest provider of banking equipment in the country, and this building is not probably the first historic building they've ever probably have run across where they have to kind of meet what you're looking for, and this is the best solution given the size of the machine that has to go in. So they paid a lot of attention to how we can make this look as good as we can, given the location that has to go in. So
commerce.
it's exactly what it is, commerce and technology.
Yeah, but technology seems to be getting smaller. That's what, this is the one exception to the rule.
Except when there's money inside a building,
Yeah,
inside a
okay.
machine, it
Well,
becomes
you all
harder.
aren't lacking on that, so I don't cry poor mouth to me, because that's gonna be hard for me.
I'd just like to see some rendering of some variations
I
of this
would
to
too.
make it look a little more appealing and historic.
Or the classic look of the town at that.
If we've done special meetings before, are we still allowed to do that? And have it, like, if they get everything together in a week or
Just send it
so,
over to you.
and
If-
just,
if you-
we meet and all together and just take care of it instead of the email and all that?
Which way would you prefer? You could pass a motion that says he's gonna forward me a new rendering, once you give him time to talk to Diebold. And I can email it to all of you, and that's your final approval then. When you see it, you say yes or
Okay, is that everybody okay with that? Is that
Just-
feasible?
Just so I'm clear, we're going to come back to you, and the only thing that's going to change is these lettering, the lettering in this logo is going to change to gold or brass. That's the only thing that's going to change on what we're
And you
gonna bring
said
back.
the machine would not be blue, they can make it a different color, right?
No, that's The machine will be the machine. What you see here is what you're going to see, yeah.
Yeah, this,
Yeah,
that's gotta be
Yeah,
blue.
that's the color of the machine.
No, but John, you said you want more architecture.
Yeah, there's something that, I don't know, obviously they're just they're bank machine people, but I don't know if you have some contractor or something that could
Or
maybe,
an architect.
architect or somebody that would be able to make that fit in and look a little more.
The only thing that I could possibly suggest, based on what you're asking, would be to put a faux window above a faux transit window and replace the logo with a faux transit window.
That would look better, I think.
That's the only,
You have to
With the,
remember-
machine,
I think you have to remember that you have a big transom above this.
Yeah.
You can only see
it's
about,
not in this photo, yeah,
I
not
see,
the
yeah.
you see about 8 inches of it, you know, above, but it's bigger.
a faux transit window is going to look like a giant mirror, so
And
it's,
if you put a faux transom over this machine, or even a clear one, which you said you can't do, now you're stacking cubes.
Yeah.
It's not gonna look
That's
good
not
on
gonna look
that.
right either.
You know, you're gonna be stacking windows that's a geometric shape that isn't there, and
yeah,
won't be
it was
there.
a suggestion originally, but it doesn't work in this
Doesn't help,
circumstances
yeah.
because of what's behind the machine too. Got
So,
it.
so if when I'm looking at, so I'm looking at the ATM, underneath of it, let's say that's a 1x4, and then it's got that, like that inside corner molding, okay, to give it that raised panel look. If that came across the top as well, would give a little bit of, you see, if you look at the tops on the left-hand side, see how it's above that closed in
Oh, I see.
window is something like that, just coming across, as I drew it, just across here. You know, similar to what's on the left-hand side, what's above your,
so you're saying perhaps match that piece of molding that's above that, or
Yeah.
bring it across?
Yes.
Just to bring some more
Just
character.
to- Yeah,
Well, none of us are architects, but like if maybe just an architect could look at it and say, could you bring more historical character and make it look less, you know,
I think that would add to it.
I think that would add to it. That separates kind of the sign and the ATM, and it kind of,
Keeps the character there.
to me, it's a little bit of a feel of that, of the bottom of the window, so to speak, but it also looks, now it will go away from looking like the window to the right to looking like what's on the left.
So what you're asking is for us to
Yes.
bring you a rendering where this piece of molding comes across here.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, all right.
It would make it look more like it was the original and not.
And
changed.
eliminate the logo, or keep the logo in
No,
and show you
I
both?
would say the logo's fine up above that. The Taylor Bank and always here,
Well, probably to make it look good, it's going to have to stay on the same elevation here.
Yeah.
So it comes straight across here.
Mhm.
And then we're either going to have to figure out where the logo goes above.
if
or
you could go
below
down
that.
a little bit, yeah.
And it would be in gold or brass lettering.
What does always here for good mean? Just out of curiosity, is that your
That's our
logo?
tagline.
Always here
That's
for
our-
good?
that's our
I thought
tagline.
Taylor Bank was a friendly bank was the logo or something.
No, that's our tagline.
Oh, you're tagging, but the always here for good is the one okay.
It means what it says.
Always here for bad, always here for good. We're not leaving, I don't know, always here.
I think that would
How about always
definitely
here?
add, I think that would definitely add a little bit of
I think that might make a big
to that.
difference.
All right, so, guys, any more comments?
Procedurally, how do we go forward?
It sounds, I don't, it doesn't appear that any commissioners are gonna make a motion right now. So as the chair, we can continue to do this. Actually, I'll need a motion from the commissioners, or one of them, to continue to move forward as we understand it's gonna be done right away. And we wanna work, we can get it done right away. It can be approved as soon as tomorrow, I think via
As long as it
email.
gets back to us, I think we're all
Just
not
send
traveling.
us maybe another render, just maybe show that, the board coming across, and then the change of the sign color, of the lettering, and then I think it might pull everything a little bit more together, I really do. and what I've been hearing from a couple of commissioners here. So, can I get a motion that someone would make to table this, to continue working with this via email? Anybody would make a motion?
Yeah, I'll attempt to do it. Hold on, let me turn this around here. I make a motion regarding case 7-5-23-15 for County Taylor Banking Company, 24 North Main. That the applicant will provide Dave Engelhardt, head of the Planning and Zoning Department, a new rendering showing what do you want to call it, a panel across above the ATM, right?
Yes.
And also showing the new lettering for the logo. And once that is received, Dave will send by email to all commissioners, and after review, the commissioners will make a decision to approve.
Okay.
Sounds right to me.
Is that all right?
Everybody got that?
Yes.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
We have a second, and all in favor? Aye.
And ASAP.
Any opposed?
ASAP, yeah.
So, you get that to us as early as tomorrow morning.
We'll get with Diebold in the morning. You likely won't get it tomorrow, but we'll try to get it quickly as
And
possible.
we'll answer you directly right away.
Yeah, if, you know, if we have by Friday, even that would, you know.
Do our best.
All right. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Right.
See you guys.
I've got my email on the bottom.
Yes.
Just in case you didn't.
Got it. Thank you very much.
All right, moving right along here. Comments from the public.
Come on, Dion.
State your name for the record, please.
I'm Edward Ham and live on South Main Street, although, well, never mind. I have some general comments about sort of the state of the work of historic preservation in Berlin, and a couple of ideas that I want to put to you. And I've had bits and pieces of this conversation with some of you, but I haven't sort of put it all together in like I'm going to try to do now. And I guess before I say anything, I should say I tend to speak kind of bluntly and directly. I'm really a nice guy, but if I say a few things a little bit that seem a little bit difficult, don't be offended. I have good intentions. I think that it's pretty clear that we're living through a very challenging time for historic preservation in Berlin. Like we're under, like those days, that some of us, always remember from years ago when there was really a lot of momentum behind, the work clearly aren't here anymore. And now, there's a lot of folks that live in town that take the town the way it is kind of tabula rasa, like this is the way it's always been, and they don't understand that actually it was an enormous amount of effort and work to do in the first place and to maintain it. But I'm going to go ahead and sort of name a few things that have gone wrong, and then I'm going to tell you I don't have the solution, but I have two suggestions for maybe things that we could do. I mean, going back not so far, we've got the Cornell building, which turned out quite badly. We've got what I would call the Scott's old house on South Main Street that was just brutally murdered. I still fail to understand why anyone would buy that house if they wanted to do what they wanted to do. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
With that,
I'm gonna
house,
go-
you mean like they stripped down all the woodwork inside?
Yeah, well, some of it was like, I would have paid good money for some of the wood that came out of that house that I think they took to the landfill. But I know that's beyond the purview
Yeah,
of.
unfortunately, we
But-
can't.
And I know that y'all tried to work with them to get them to do better, but it's still just a tragedy. I mean, it's one of the, there are not that many houses of that era in town, and that one has been just murdered. That's the only way to put it
And that
down.
one did not have hardly any owners from the time it was built till, I searched the title on that.
Yeah.
Sick. And,
Yeah. Well,
And the Grinnell brick, that we approved a different color than they ended up using.
That's what I was saying,
Yeah,
too,
we-
gray.
I'm not blaming you guys for
No,
this.
no,
I'm
no,
just
I know this
sort
is
of-
a good
I just think
conversation.
that we should just go ahead and acknowledge some of the things that have been
But
wrong.
you know what would make that look amazing? If they would just paint that brick. If they would paint it,
Yeah,
it would look
just-
real, like real painted brick.
But what?
But
we
don't bring up
approved
paint,
is
because I'm gonna
not
talk
what
about
went up.
9/11 social here in a minute, and that one was just, whatever, sorry,
But anyway,
420. So I hear you.
Sorry to interrupt, and we value what you're gonna say, so go ahead.
Well, we've got unfolding before our eyes right now what we all know are massively inappropriate windows and doors going in to all of what's going on here at the former Style Guide, let's call it. I was here for the meeting when you all dealt with the property on the corner here, and it looks nothing like what I understood you guys to have approved. And this is one of the issues. Clearly, the Historic District Commission is not getting the support from the town that it needs. I mean, clearly, I'm sorry, the planning department and the powers that be in town need to have more interest and do more. Now that we're doing code enforcement, more aggressively, I certainly hope that some of that spills over into making sure that what y'all decide actually gets done.
We got people that we approve and they do something else.
I know, and there should be a cost for that.
Yeah.
It should be prevented. And you have everything that's going on Gay Street. So I'll use Gay Street, this is the beginning of my sort of suggestions. I understand, I think, I wasn't here when the decisions were made as to why that area on Gay Street was added to the historic district. I think that people in town wanted to exert basically some design control over what happened when that area went commercial. The problem is that I think, this is my opinion, what the Historic District Commission was asked to do when this non-historic core part of the town was thrown into the Historic District Commission, the intention was good, but you guys were basically placed in the position of being modern architecture critics. And that's not what the Historic District Commission is, right? That's not what it was set up to do. It's not what it's supposed to do. And so when I look at that, so first of all, I think that it's not the Historic District Commission job to deal with that new development that's outside of, the historic core of the town. And the second thing is that what I really worry is that, so like right now, if somebody comes in here and says, I bought a property on Main Street and I want to do a building just like that Selway guy did, you're going to laugh at it and say, no, this was a special case. This was over there. But over time, right, 10 years from now, somebody's going to go in there, wait a minute, you guys approved that up there. I want to do a building that looks like the firehouse, on South Main Street or right here, and it's going to be a problem, right? So I think that this is just my idea, my suggestion. I think that y'all should ask the town council to remove that area from the historic district. And it's not because I don't care about what happens in that area. I just think that it may set what could be terrible precedents down the line where people will try to use that to get things approved that we don't want in the real historic district. And I think that it's also placing you all in a position that it's really not the mission of the Historic District Commission. I mean, what honestly needs to happen is the town needs to have a more sophisticated zoning code and a more sophisticated zoning approval process. And they're trying to make you guys do that instead of, somebody else.
And may I say, Edward, to just interject, well, you can't imagine what it was like sitting up here when he came, and we did not even know that planning and zoning had designated that as the new arts district, and it was going to be part of his, but we never had anyone come and say, by the way, this is part of the historic district, it's expanding, these are some thoughts we have, nada. And so I felt particularly foolish when they were going up 3 stories and saying, when they said, well, they've already been approved, and I'm like, I'm sitting here, I didn't even know. So I think communication, what you're saying too, is a huge part that we're brought into these decision-making, or told about it, at least.
Yeah. I mean,
What would your suggestion?
my
be?
suggestion.
Now, this,
I'm sorry.
what would your suggestion be when someone comes and it's approved and then they didn't do it? I mean, they come knowing they're not going to do it, put it that way, and it doesn't matter, they don't care if they're fined or whatever. What do we do?
Enforcement, we need to have enforcement mechanisms, right? I mean, because, you guys don't exist in the complete air, right? I mean, there's state law
We're 4 years
enables
now
what
with
you
this.
do.
I'm frustrated about
Yeah.
a lot of things. I'm frustrated with Mr. Pitts' house, which has just been sitting there 50-some years and falling apart. And it's demolition by neglect. And that brick part in the back, I think Nudi's on Powelton and Main, maybe a little bit over, but that.
Yeah. Well, I don't have, I'm grateful that I'm not sitting up there, and I don't have solutions for everything. I do think that the Gay Street situation's one, and the other thing is that the Little Triangle lot,
Oh, my.
which I've seen a rendering that is absolutely caused me to run for the bathroom for what was going to be proposed in there. I don't know if it is, I don't know if that's what it is going to be proposed. Well, first of all, Triangle lot should be a park. But if it can't be, that was, as I understand it, I'm not sure, originally in the historic district, but whatever the structure was, it was
Mrs.
there.
Moore said, one of the oldest homes in Berlin.
That little red house.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember it.
It was a little, it looked like an old Georgetown, DC, or southeast by Anacostia, where people lived in the late 1800s, clapboard, 2 stories, skinny, tall.
Yeah, and so it's
I
just
can't,
gone, right?
and-
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the little, I went to school, there were 3 children, and I went to, one was my age, I think, I can't think of their name to save my life.
Lived in that little house.
Yes, but, it was, when Habitat was in the process of thinking about purchasing it,
Yeah.
it was in the historic district, because I sat with them and looked at what they wanted to do before they came to the board.
Yeah.
What they wanted to do you remember, Dave?
I remember the
Yeah.
building, the Habitat building that they.
That
were-
was really
It was
gonna look
attractive.
nice.
They had
It really, it would
retail
have,
down and.
yeah,
It was
but,
attractive. It was a triangle-shaped building.
and it wasn't huge,
But
and
it was brick.
really, but it would look really, really good, but they could get the funding to do it, so.
I mean, I was sad to see that cute little red house go, but there was, you could just tell that was,
I mean,
that
it
was, they had to tear it down. There wasn't.
It's going to
Yeah,
implode.
Well,
yeah.
what I was gonna say about it is that if anyone were to take me up on the suggestion that really the problems that have been caused on Gay Street shouldn't be the Historic District Commission's problem, especially out of fear of the sort of what precedents people will try to read into whatever decision you make there, to just go ahead and cut that out at the same time, because that is, for all intents and purposes, that little triangle is now part of whatever happens on Gay Street. That's my thought. So that was the first thing that I wanted to say was that, yeah, and unfortunately, it means that there's nobody looking over what happens on Gay Street. But again, I don't think it's historic district commissions. I think you're getting into dangerous territory if the district is expanded into these areas that are not historically sort of core, and then you have to approve things that you would never approve in another part of the district. And what happens 10 years later from now, that's one. The other thing idea that I've had for a while, which I've mentioned to a couple of you, is that for really major decisions, like the kind of thing that happens like maybe once a year, maybe once a couple years, maybe twice a year at the most, not the signs, not even the ATM, which looked like somebody in Chicago designed it, but but like for the really large scale decisions, that maybe the commission take a look at the idea of being able to have a consultant prepare a report, a short report on the really large decisions that says, I'm talking like 3 or 4 pages. This is the building. This is what's proposed in the expert, like maybe identified through the historic trust, or through like there's an association of historic districts or whatever, would identify like the key issues to be for the district, for the commission to work out with the proponent as a way of sort of, which isn't like, it doesn't take away any power or any decision making from you guys, but it provides an expert opinion and a focused list of the key questions, to resolve with, with the stuff that's big.
That's easy to do because they have, their employees are listed in what their specialty is, just, and phone numbers are right there in the emails. That would be easy for us to do.
May I ask you a question, or Carolyn? Who makes the decision what trash cans go out? Or who just buys those institutional-looking trash cans? I know that there have got to be trash cans. They don't look like that in Williamsburg. There have got to be better-looking trash cans on the street than what's sitting there. I went down today. I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, but they stick out so far. They'd be better to be long and narrow. More rectangular and be black or have something on it than. They really are horrible. So who makes decisions? That's part of what the town looks like. It's a visual. When people come up with hanging all their clothes out like it's a tenement building with clothes. The ladies, fashion people get a little carried away with hanging their clothes out all over the streets like a picture of a tenement in New York, back in the day. There's certain things visually that take away from the town center, and it's got to be, but we're never brought into any of that kind of, I think we should be.
That should be added, like purchases that are for things in the town.
I thought that only back when they had the town, whatever, once a year, what was it called, that people could put things outside on the sidewalk?
Sidewalk sale.
Yeah, but
Sidewalk
not
sale.
all the time.
Not every day of the year sidewalk sales, what it's beginning to look like. And I think it takes away, it looks more honky-tonky, and if you want that, go to Ocean City. If you want that kind of look where everything's hanging out like a clothesline or something. We're really getting a little carried away. If y'all, next time you're going down the street during business hours and look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Those are little
I was
nuances.
going to say, you're going to see me next month because I've rented an office across the street and I want to put up a sign, and I noticed that out there it's looking pretty bad right now with the recycling that got put out. So I promise I'll try to make a move on at least one big ugly pile.
I will tell you that when the sidewalk sales became rampant was during COVID. The merchants came to the council and said they knew what the code was, because I had often told them, you can't do that. Put a rack of dresses out there because it's turning from summer to winter, right? To
Sales.
clearance them, right? But it was every day with some of the merchants. And then when COVID hit and they were all facing really reduce sales because we didn't have people in town.
Right.
They let them do it, and they also let them do more. You remember Rains Reef had a bunch of tables out on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So you could go, you know, with your family, and put a mask on and go in and order and then eat it on the sidewalk. And that disappeared after a while, right? Because it wasn't as bad for business as it had been.
But they didn't change the
But they didn't
ordinance.
stop putting the stuff out on the sidewalk. And I have brought it up several times. When's this gonna end? And I will bring it up again.
And it's
So
the
you
store
bring
that's
it
on the
up.
corner of, next to the Atlantic, on the corner of Main Street and Jefferson. The little, what's it called? You know, the store that's, you know, got, sells eight.
The girl, the tattoo
Dreamweaver.
business?
Dreamweaver
Oh, yeah.
has, so they have tables all out there, stuff hanging, then they bought a cart. It's like a bazaar with like.
But they never even had their sign that's over the door approved, and it's been up there with 5 years now.
She was the one that said in the paper she wanted all of her boardwalk friends in Ocean City to come get a shop in Berlin and have shops here. Do you remember that? When she
No,
put that in the
but that's
spec?
what it looks like.
Well, the sidewalks are definitely getting smaller.
1 week in August,
It's
1
tough to
weekend in
walk by.
August was
All
the
you gotta do-
sidewalk sale.
Every night when I come home from work and driving down the road, people are stepping in the street, and that's not good.
That's
trash
not
cans
unusual, but you're right, other stuff is on the
So,
sidewalk. Shouldn't be.
More than
if
last
you
year.
mention it to the mayor and council again, maybe as a recommendation of the historic commission, that the close be stopped.
Yep.
I mean, I agree, it's just
And
getting
the
too
tables
small.
and the
There's a
racks.
sidewalk sale
Everything
dates,
should
August
not
something,
be.
August something.
I
on the
think it used
weekend.
to be October, wasn't it?
That was
No,
August.
it was August.
It was the summer.
August.
But there should be no
First weekend in
merchandise
August.
being
It's
sold
It's not
out.
supposed to be, the town code says so.
No,
The town code says so.
They're doing it through the farmer's market now, they have everything on the
yeah,
sidewalks.
Dreamweaver, she is.
I'm not.
Yeah, the town, that's what the town code says. And I warned them at the time, I said, when you allow this, it's gonna be tough pulling it back from these
Well,
merchants.
it's like what Ed was talking about, precedents. The precedent was started there, and now it's hard to take it back.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
that we can relate to exactly what he's saying to. In this instance here, they allowed it, now it's a precedent, and now they want to continue to do it, but where the code says that you can't have it, it's just time that stops, and anyone can tell that when you see these sidewalks packed full of people, which is really, really nice for the town, but it's not nice for the town that they step out into the street sometimes to pass a sandwich board or a rack of clothes.
So the
Or
trash
if you've
cans
got
are huge.
somebody with a walker or a wheelchair, you can't
And
get
people
down.
travel in posses today. It doesn't seem like it's one or two people.
Well, you know, going back to what Edward was talking about, taking, you know, this section behind the Atlantic, Jefferson and Gay out of the historic district, I think it would be ideal to add North Main down to like the railroad tracks.
Well, they don't,
That was tried.
Until
that
the
I-
Thompson plan moves, it's gonna be a tough one.
well, I was specifically told years ago, if we suggested that, they had a lawyer ready. I worry about those houses because they're not protected. Robin's Nest, your grandfather's house, was not protected.
That's so sad.
We have the beach
And,
umbrella on
oh,
the porch.
dear God, I
The
just
fence there.
cry when I go
Oh,
by
that
there.
fence is horrible.
Well, the way Gay Street came about, and some of you, I wouldn't expect you to remember, but when we rezoned that, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, the 4 parcels on Gay, we rezoned that to the B1 Town Center District. And I remember in the rezoning conversation with the Planning Commission, they make the recommendation to the mayor and council to rezone those 4 lots. John Barrett on the Planning Commission said, don't you think it would make sense to discuss putting them in the historic district, since the entirety of the B1 is in the historic district? So we thought, everybody thought that we discussed it, and the mayor and council discussed it at the time. And then different people were on your panel, but we discussed it then. And the historic chapter does not say everything has to be 1890. Matter of fact, on Main Street, many of the houses were built in the 50s and 60s. And all they have to do is be complementary. They do not have to be matchy-matchy. We are not, you've heard me say it many times, we are not Disneyland. Where everything has to match and be part of the Magic Kingdom. You had quite a few looks at the property on Gay Street for Mr. Selway, and he made some changes. And I think that street in particular, with Gay and Jefferson, that's what we were after, was more of a, everybody at the time was after, it wasn't pushed by me, more of an arts avenue or district behind the hotel, because the hotel's really the anchor. We know that, we know this. But you had different artisans there. You had Jeff Oxford there already, and you had Matt Amy wasn't there very long with the Wood Knockers. And you had the Arts League of Worcester County right there. So that was the thinking. I'm just helping you remember a little bit. I don't dispute what Ed's saying, that that's a more modern building. But I don't see that setting a precedent for some house on South Main that someone wants to put the wrecking ball to. Because you'd have to approve that. And the new house would have to be complementary to the adjoining properties. So you'd be
Which
within.
the Selway building is absolutely not.
I'm sorry, I was speaking. You would be in your rights to say, no, we're not gonna allow that. It's not complementary to Ed's house, if it was next door to him. You got a new building gonna go up next to your house. It's not gonna match your house, it's not gonna match Joe Moore's house, right? So, there's your point.
This historic district, and I did look into this before I came here, the original boundaries were drawn very carefully. And they were drawn very carefully to encompass
Many homes.
an area that represented, you know, the historic core of the town, with certain exceptions where people didn't want to be part of it.
It's still built.
But
Right.
what you're saying, Dave, is you're sort of saying that I don't see any logical connection between saying, oh, well, since it's B1, it should be in the historic district. The mission of the Historic District Commission pertains to those properties that are in the historic core that was drawn carefully. I think that, I understand the impetus, and I'll go talk to John if it was John's original idea. The impetus was to say, you know, the town wants to exert a little bit of control over what happens here in this area. But it's not. That area was not part of the historic district to begin with for a reason. Because it did not have buildings and structures of the character that rose to the level of being something that would be included in the historic district. What the town is trying to do is trying to use this commission as a town design committee. And that is outside the remit of what its job is. I mean, are we just gonna keep, as the town grows bigger, are we just gonna keep adding to the historic district every time we confront a problem where we're afraid of what somebody's going to build there? And getting a few concessions out of Selway to when he's building an entirely inappropriately scaled thing that's right in this transition zone between Washington Street and the different residential scale over there and the core business area of downtown. That's not success. That's in my view, this body being put in a position where it shouldn't be. What needs to happen, to be honest with you, is that the town needs to have design standards that apply to areas outside of the historic district. What's basically being done there is that you're trying to get the Historic District Commission to enforce some sort of design standard in areas that are not core historical
Only
areas
in
of
the
the town.
historic district. The planning commission approves all the other design. The planning commission does that on site plan approval.
Well, then as things stand right now, then I believe that's what should happen on Gay Street. Or, you know, maybe the zoning membership will change to begin with, but I mean, that's water under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Edward, for your comment.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and taking the time with us, and you're welcome to come anytime, as you
Well, you're
know.
gonna see me next month. Anyway, I hope that you'll take that, you know, seriously.
No, I really think
I
we
really think that
appreciate
you
it.
need to worry, I really think the mission creep of what's going on, I think what's going on in Gay Street is terrible. I don't like that building, it looks like a fire hall. It's wrongly scaled, I don't agree with it, but I don't think that it's your problem. I think that it's the planning commission's problem. And from talking to other people in town, there's a lot of people that are interested in design standards in Berlin. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but that wouldn't be something that would apply in the historic district, as I understand it. So, you know, I just think you got mission creeped, and you know, maybe you need to kick back a little bit on that. And I think, you know, yeah, I think the consultants would help focus conversation on, you know, key
That's
stuff.
easy.
So
Very easy.
that's my,
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. I don't think any of us sit here, and I'm just curious, Dave, who is on the planning commission now to speak? I know that the fellow that has Cheers is the chair.
Chris Denny.
Chris
Denny's the chair.
Gene Chandler is on there, okay.
Bob Palladino, right?
No, he's on the
Is he on,
Cosby,
Cassio.
Cosby, Ron Cassio, Matt Stir, Austin Purnell.
Yeah.
Purnell, Phyllis Purnell. She's gonna step down, her term's over.
Okay, Edward, move in here and get on that planning thing.
Thank you so much,
I gotta
everyone.
go to West Ocean City and have some seafood.
See you now. Good night, Edward,
Bring
see you.
the doggy back.
Comments from staff, you guys, anything? All good there? Commissioners, comments?
I thought it was good.
Dave, did you have an opportunity to look at the back?
I did not, but I will. I did not, not yet.
What about the fence at the Globe? Have they come for a permit to build the fence?
Yeah,
They did.
They did, yeah.
they got their permit,
Okay, did they say when they were going to do it?
did they?
How are they doing business-wise? I mean, speaking commerce right now. And the restaurant that left town,
I have no
was it Aesop? Is that why he left?
Yeah.
Anybody coming in or everybody interested in it as a restaurant, you
I
know?
haven't heard of
In
anything.
We had a staff meeting today, and Ivy said there's 4 people interested in it.
As a restaurant?
Yes,
Oh,
and, you know, Ernie Girardi owns the property.
Yeah, I knew that.
So he's the one who vets them, who, you know.
Decides who.
And I know that he did that with, like Sterling Tavern, you know,
Uh-huh.
he had told us just talking in the office, just chatting. He says, I checked them out to see how their business was, and then I interview them, and so
It seems like it's doing
he wants a
well.
good tenant, you know, like, so he's
Yeah.
gonna, I think the timing was, the lease was up.
It was.
So the owner there said, I'm going back to Pittsville where
Why wrong?
where he's already
Been successful there. Uh-huh.
And I think, I don't know, but business here in town was steady, but it wasn't killer.
Yeah.
And the rent's higher than it is in Pittsville, you know, or I think he owns the Pittsville building, I don't know, but.
I was just curious.
But yeah, Ivy said there was, she didn't say who they were, but she said there was 4 different
Interesting. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
restaurants looking at it because the equipment's there,
Yeah,
you know, so.
when it was an Italian restaurant, I liked it. We could use another Italian restaurant in Berlin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ernie was in there every day for lunch back then.
Maybe we'll break through some comments from Commissioner. I just want to say that, you know, it's an opinionated commission.
We should be.
That is what we are. We all have our opinion. That's why we're here. That's why we represent the town and do what we do. And I think, as the chairman, I think we do it well.
And we care.
And
Every
we do
one of
care.
us really cares about Berlin, you know, from
It's really not an easy seat to sit in.
It's not. It's not,
It's
it's
hard
not, and I
decisions.
think, and it's just to pat all my commissioners on your backs. I'm glad the way that everyone voices their opinion, sticks to
Well,
their
very
opinions.
respectfully, everyone's very
What they have.
respectful, isn't it? Not disrespectful, it's just coming from different points of view and having different experiences, and myself just throwing out ideas. I mean, because with some, and of course the bank has, what can we say, talk about commerce in the town, the bank can be the big bank, and they are. People all over the country know about the bank, how solid it is, Taylor Bank. And so when people start doing a little bit of a poor mouth to me or something, I'm like, that's painful. I don't even, just kidding.
I'll second what Nornie says about the whole group. You do an excellent job, I think so.
Yeah.
So for people to come in here and throw
Genuine.
stones, I don't appreciate it. And I think he's incorrect on a couple of things. I'd be glad to talk to him about it before he comes in and starts throwing stones, but that hasn't happened. So I expect more of that. But you know, some people have to come in and make sure their influence is felt. So
Well, with that,
we'll see how
the
that
history
goes.
of his family in this town and that property, and what his father and mother did for Taylor House Museum,
Oh, I know.
that was because of them, honestly. I mean, anyone who knew of that, and with the hotel, with Ed being a partner with that, and he was taught at a pretty young age, this is your town and this is your heritage, any more than with you, you know, too, Mr. Usher, over there, and you, Carol. I mean, I think all of us really care. I mean, the two of us are comediers, two ladies on
but
hand,
you all have been here, well, that's the
but we
thing.
care so much.
It is upsetting to hear about 410 Social, because I think we did a hell of a job on
I
that.
thought he did too. He should have seen some of the options that we had to look at.
And that's where I was going
If I had to nitpick
too.
it, I do think that we approved a color on the bottom that was slightly more charcoal and less black, but I think that that was a handsome building. the way
Yeah,
it
it's for what it is, and it was the back street. It wasn't the first, it wasn't the main street where all the grand, that building was good.
Well, you know that I was out, are we still on?
Yes.
I stopped that young fellow from putting all that stucco up there that day. I was having a heart attack. I just, you know, so, and I did, it turned out well, and it's beautiful.
I
So-
wish the Purnells would paint
That is a
the brick, so it looked like painted brick. It would look so much more historic.
Yeah.
The two things that have always sort of blown my mind, it was hard for me to understand not having the deep pockets that the Burbage and the Purnell family have. It is not like it's coming out of the Children's College Fund or something. I mean, their names on the building. I mean, if it's the Moore Building, we really cared that we painted it, we take care of it, our name's up there. And I said to Jack once, I said, how about planting some trees in your dad's park? You know, the Burbage Park, or putting a fountain in there and some benches or something. And with the Purnell Building, it really, there's no excuse for it to come out looking the way it did, really. But that's just my opinion, as you said. We have
Right,
opinion.
we all have opinions, just
Yeah.
like Edward has Edward's opinion.
Yeah, and he
We're
cares
welcome.
about Berlin, which
Yeah.
is, I'd like to see more young people really care about it. And I do think our historic, I mean, you look at, I was in Easton, maybe I said this a month ago, and I was looking at the Tidewater Inn, having lunch, looking out the sidewalk, nobody on the sidewalk. I was there for 2.5 hours having lunch. It was dead. Middle of the week, like Berlin, where you can't get down the sidewalk. So Easton was always the, you know, want to be Easton, you know, here it is with all that money over
Yeah,
there.
you
Doesn't
take your
nothing.
life in your hands driving your car. I had to slip up to church twice today. And I mean, you just barely can drive because people just, you know, which is fine, I get
You
it.
said they go slow, that's what I
Yeah,
do.
well, I'm glad everything's going on. As the Burbages have people coming in, and I'll just say, coming into the old style guide to those of us that lived here, the style guide always be that to me.
Mhm.
And it's pretty much rented, or people coming in, do we know, or they
We
said
have no
anything,
idea.
Dave?
Ivy said that every spot is committed.
Is really,
Yeah, on the downstairs, first floor.
wow.
She did
I
say
saw them
that.
in hazmat suits on the back street the other day, the crowd bringing the stuff out of the second floor of that, they all had on hazmat suits, masks, all the men
Well,
were
those are-
dragging the stuff out of the second floor.
Those are gonna be residential units.
Well, I saw the hazmat people there, so I can speak to it.
But, yeah, she said all the main floor was committed.
Well, that's good to know, I'm glad to hear that. I hate to see
So now
it.
the race is probably on to finish it. So.
Yeah, well.
And the distilling company up on Old Ocean City Boulevard is, any day now, we'll probably get a call for the final inspections. They're very close. But
Certainly
not
looks
yet.
nice on
Not
North.
yet, almost. They've been,
They
that's
cleaned up
taken
North
way
Main
too
Street.
long.
That looks so much better, Dave.
What's that?
Whomever did property on North Main Street when you came by the State Police Barracks and turned onto North Main, where they've cleaned out those houses and those lots back in there, it's
Oh,
very
yeah, yeah, yeah.
attractive. It's a field with trees in the background there, it's a totally different look
Yeah.
coming down North Main Street than it
Once,
looks
once I finally got them to cut it,
Yeah, well, it looks good. Yeah, thank you, Dave.
it looked like Kansas, you
It
know, the
did.
wind blowing.
Yes, it looks great, thank you.
All right, we can take
Okay.
a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion adjourned second.
Second.
All right, meeting's
Okay.
adjourned.
Just need an autograph on it.
Well, Carol and I said it was a thin little envelope, but we had a
That's the
lot
ones that pull you.
of comments.
Well, yeah, they are the ones that fool you.
Get that big. There's the camera. The phone. These glasses.
Now, this is all.
How many bears you got in there?
I got faraway glasses, close-up glasses.
Bite
and
the bullet
sunglasses.
and give